Hi, everybody. My name's Charlie Calabrese. I'm the VP of Operations here at Partner Eyes. With me today is my good friend Rich Kahn from Anura. He's here to talk to us about fraud and specifically digital fraud. But Rich, I don't want to take too much of your thunder there. So, can you tell us a little bit about Anura, who you are, like how Anura is different?
Anura has been, it's an ad fraud solution we've been developing for the last 15 years. We actually developed it for ourselves initially because we were realizing there was fraud. And back in 2005, there were no fraud solutions. So as a developer, sit down in front of the computer, start banging out some code. Next thing you know, I'm 150,000 lines deep and, and it was working. And we started improving our ROI and it started doing well. We started having customers and contacts in the industry asking us about it. So we realized maybe we have something better. We did some testing, found out we did have something better, and then a couple of years ago rolled it out as a standalone product.
So you've been around the business for a while then, right? I mean, it's not, you've been in
So
digital ad
let's
space
look
for
at
a while.
internet history.
Yeah.
September 1st of 1991, the internet was rolled out publicly for everybody to use. At least that's the best date I can find.
Okay. I'll buy
I
it.
started my online marketing career in 1993.
Oh God. We are getting old, brother. We are getting old.
There
So,
was no browsers back then either.
oh God.
All coding. Yes, we're getting old.
Yeah. So talk to me about, Anura in general, right? So what type of fraud does Anura detect, or perhaps how, and as you've grown, maybe it's changed. So what are you guys doing today?
So you're looking for the secret sauce.
Don't give me all the secrets. Maybe like a little bit.
Sure. So essentially what we really focus on is the three main areas of fraud, which is bots, malware, and human fraud, which is very difficult to detect.
Okay.
But obviously, fraudsters are using human fraud farms from around the globe to commit fraud because they get past all the bot detection, all the IVT stuff in the market. They get past all the basic stuff that's out there, and even some of the advanced software. So identifying a human fraud is the biggest challenge that faces performance-based marketers, and that's what we do very well. So how we do it, secret sauce kind of stuff.
Don't give me too much, man. Don't.
So we'll keep this quiet. We'll keep this
Keep
between you and me.
it quiet. Just you and I.
So essentially what happens is a user lands on a page that we're scanning. We collect hundreds of data points on the user's environment, hardware, software, anything and everything we can grab. And then that gets shipped back to us and our algorithms run through that looking for a digital footprint of fraud. And we know what to look for. So there's a lot of ways. It's not just collecting those data points. It's a matter of how each data point interacts with each other, what's normal, what's not expected. And then the way we do things is very different than a lot of competitors in the market. A lot of competitors in the marketplace will give you a numerical score and say, here's your score, good
Yeah.
luck.
So we're 70% sure it might be fraud, maybe.
Right.
No, yeah. Okay.
And when they get to 70% sure, most of the companies will tell you, okay, that's a good time to block that traffic.
Okay. Okay.
So the mathematician in me says, what about the other 30%?
Right.
Isn't that likely to be real?
Yeah.
And because of that, therein lies where my competitors have a big problem with, which is false positives.
Okay.
So mismarking real traffic as fraud.
Okay.
And vice versa. If they're doing that, they're also mismarking fraudulent traffic as good.
Right.
So you create this problem that the market has. So what we did was we wanted to do something a little different. We wanted to make sure we only marked fraudulent traffic as fraud if we were 100% confident. So basically virtually eliminate all false positives. In fact, in the last 3 years with the billions of transactions we're processing, I think we had 2 cases of a false positive, and they were very, very edge case scenarios. Like, somebody developed his own operating system and stuck it in a kiosk that he was putting into different, locations. And
I don't think anybody's gonna get mad at you for 2 instances against billions. I think it's gonna be all right. I think.
Yeah, and we're cool with that. And now the important thing is, okay, so now if we're only marking it as 100%, maybe not catching a lot of fraud. Well, our clients are reporting that we're averaging 200 to 300% more fraud caught than our competition with virtually 0% false positives.
Okay. So
big difference.
So not only have you said we're going to be sure, but even in being sure, your numbers blow away. I mean, look, if somebody said I'll give you 100% better, whatever, I'm going to take it. You're telling me you're 200 and 300% better than your competitors. That's incredible.
This is the biggest way we prove it. Put a campaign side by side against any competitor in the marketplace, and let's look at performance.
Right.
use their data, use our data, and see which gives you a higher ROI at the end. And this is the test with our clients. And in the past 3 years, we've been selling this. We've come across every one of our competitors so far that I can think of, and we have yet to lose a test.
Let's not throw anybody under the bus. We're gonna
No,
be friendly. We're not gonna throw anybody under the bus. But that's awesome, man. That's so cool. And if you think about it, what what industry needs it more than digital advertising, right? Like just the world is going digital right now, and in general, uh, we're always going to see fraud. It's so cool to know that there's folks like you out there who are really trying to perfect that detection process. But I guess that leads to like this you know, you mentioned 1991, 1993. So like, what are the trends you're seeing now? Like, I mean, for a long time, bots were the thing, but are you still seeing that as the
yeah,
trend?
bots are still going to always be there because they're getting smarter and more intelligent, and they're taking advantage of more things that they can use the bots for. Malware is still, I mean, everybody's got a mobile device. 60% of the internet's traffic is mobile.
Yeah,
And the human fraud element comes heavily into place in performance-based marketers. And I'll give you a good example. Um, we have a client that focuses on the affiliate side of the house, and they're driving traffic in for two big reasons. I would say 70% of their campaigns run either between lead generation or e-commerce.
yeah. Okay.
Okay. So what an example of what a human fraud firm would do is they're going to find the link where they get paid, click on the affiliate, or the affiliate's doing it themselves. It all depends on, the person you're dealing with.
Lots of fraud out there.
Right. They click on that link to generate the paid piece, but they know that if they don't generate certain number of conversions at the end, that they're going to get shut off because it's not non-performing. So what they do is they come to a lead form, and we'll just use a typical insurance form, says, hey, save money on your car insurance. They come along and they fill out Charlie's information on the form, put all his details in there, check off um, check off the TCPA compliancy box,
Right.
hit submit. And now if they're recording the session, it looks like a real person because it is. They're physically typing, moving their mouse. And now what happens? Somebody picks up the phone from one of these big insurance companies, calls Charlie and says, hey, I'm just calling you based on the information you filled out on the form to save money on your car insurance. And your response is,
I didn't fill out a form.
right. So now what happens? So the person who picked up and made the phone call is going to take more time with their call center to reach you because you're not expecting the call.
Sure.
They just wasted marketing dollars on generating that lead because it's garbage.
Right.
Number three, if they do it enough times, if it's a big enough company, you start getting brand reputation issues as to what happened to the data breach. Where'd you get my information?
Right. Of course.
Number four, you're breaking TCPA compliancy, which is a huge situation right now in the space.
The brand is breaching that.
Right. The
Right.
person making the phone call.
Yeah. Okay.
So all this can be identified that it's a fraudulent user in real time with our technology before they fill out the form, before they literally start filling out their first name.
So before they type in Charlie,
Right.
you can know immediately that this is nonsense.
Yeah, we're one of the few that can respond back in real time to let you know about that. So you can do something with that individual.
See, and this is one of the things that we take a lot of pride in with like our technology. One of the things that we really push on is this idea that things happen in real time. So you have to respond in real time. You want to see data in real time. You want to catch fraud in real time. You want to know that payments are going out quickly. So like one of the reasons we work with you at Anura is, and again, certainly we have our own fraud tools internally, but our bread and butter is not fraud. Like your life is, well, you don't live a fraudulent life, but your life is fraud, right? You're seeing it day in and day out, and you're able to identify these things that without billions of potential fraudulent transactions against dozens of networks and non-networks, you're not going to see all these things. So we've always taken a lot of pride in working with third parties like you and vendors of like the highest caliber. So thank you for once proving me right and saying that Anura is just going to kick butt if we need to have that fraud solution in place. Um, in terms of like the best practices, right? So when we think about, people are looking at fraud and some of us don't know. We work with plenty of clients. We both work with plenty of clients who don't know fraud is taking place or aren't aware how prevalent fraud can be within a given digital area. Best practices or thoughts on the best, just first things to consider.
Best thing to consider, call me. Honestly,
I left
yeah,
that one way too open. Okay. Okay.
honestly, when it comes down to it, I mean, fraud is changing. In fact, we're rolling out new changes and updates to our algorithms on a weekly basis. And this is because we're seeing billions of requests on a daily basis. We have access to data that the average client doesn't have access to. So with more data comes more stuff that we can find. Plus a team of engineers that have been with me 10 plus years that have taken over where I left off.
They must like
So
you.
and they were all like, this is our baby. We've seen it from its infancy and grown, and it's gotten to a certain point. But I talk to a lot of people, and the best practices are you need a solution. It's very, very difficult.
Period.
Yeah,
You
you need something
Okay.
because at the end of the day, your job is to focus on your business, growing your affiliate, channels, growing your client channels,
Correct.
managing all the day-to-day stuff. That's a full-time business with lots of people running the show. And it's not one of those things you can go to your CTO and say, oh, by the way, can you do me a favor, solve fraud?
Right. 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 And to be fair, right, your CTO, if you're a brand or even if you're a network, right, like at the end of the day, your CTO may not have that expertise in fraud. And even if they do, if they're not doing it every day, like you said, it's all about experience. Fraud has changed dozens of times this year.
Yeah.
So if you're not staying ahead of the curve, much as you all at Anura are, I don't understand how you can inherently keep up, right?
And you can. And like most people know this. If you go to your CTO and say, in most companies, and I hear this a lot from companies, we need to change an image on the website. Can we get that done? A week later, 2 weeks later. And then you go back and check, hey, I just need that just one image. It'll take you 5 minutes. It's not the 5 minutes that you need for me to make the change. It's finding the 5 minutes in my schedule to make that change.
Totally fair, man. Totally fair.
So
Who's got time? And it's crazy to me. You and I have talked before. Fraud isn't. It's not small time, right? It's a $1 million. Like yeah right.
I'll
So
give you,
where in the past couple of years, where are the numbers at for you? Like where
yeah. So
what do
here's
you
what's interesting. Early, let's call it like 2014, 15, 16, and 17, it was about $6 or $7 billion a year
in fraud?
in fraud.
Okay, okay,
It
okay.
was very consistent, it was stable, but it
Sorry,
was still billions.
consistently $6 billion a year in fraud in
Yeah.
2017. Okay, okay.
Now, 2018 hits, it goes from 7 billion the previous year to 20 billion in 2018.
So you a 3x over the
3x increase.
year. Okay, okay, okay.
Okay. Last year, 2009, so 2018 is 20 billion. Last year was estimated at 42 billion.
So we triple and we double in a 2-3 year span.
And that report is showing that it's supposed to be at 100 billion by 2023. And yet, I believe those numbers are very conservative.
So I mean, this is gonna, and a little off track, but what's changed? I mean, and I'm not trying to.
Yeah,
Obviously, I don't expect you to have the answer, but
I haven't.
oh, okay, never mind. Yeah. So
I have
what changed? I mean, doubling and tripling and inside of 3-4 years. What's
the best way I can, I mean, I've looked at a bunch of different ways, like why is it all of a sudden exploding? What's going on? And I personally believe that there are fraud solutions in the marketplace that people are using that are gameable, and people feel a false sense of confidence that they're using a solution. And I'll give an example. If I hear this a lot, if you go to a network to buy traffic,
sure? Yeah, yeah.
a
Okay.
lot of times they'll ask you, what fraud solution are you using? And you say, I'm using A, I'm using B, I'm using C. Then they say, okay, if you're using B, I'm going to turn on my B filter so that they line up. That's
Right.
not solving fraud. It's
No.
just looking at fraud in the same lens. So what happens is the fraudster can see the traffic,
Right.
can see the filter that's being used and say, I can replicate that traffic. They replicate their traffic so that the agency says, I'm selling traffic that meets B filter. The client says his traffic meets B filter, so we're happy. So everybody, including the fraudster, is happy about the traffic. So it's become a very easy gaming system at this point.
So part of it is people have gotten a little lazy, and part of it is fraudsters are getting smarter.
Both.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
And like I said, the other possibility too, I believe, is that they've been implementing, they've been taking the old click farms of the world
Sure. Sure.
and converting them into what I call human fraud farms. So what they're doing now is instead of trying to make some of these places, instead of trying to make their software smarter, you, actually right now you can go online. If you do a search for it, you can find renting a human fraud farm. It's $9 an hour.
Man,
Nine
you
bucks an hour.
can't find anything on the internet. You can
Yeah.
find anything on the
I've,
internet.
I've, I'm looking at my screen right now. I've got software that a client gave to me,
Right.
and on the software, it literally says bot software for sale, AdWords clicker bot.
Oh,
So they
God.
sell you a bot to click on AdWords and get away with it. And then they also sell you the ad bot clicker protection software.
So that they can't pick it up.
So
So
they create the problem, and then they help you hide the problem.
I mean, I love it. Like I said, man, they're getting see these fraudsters are getting to be better marketers. That's what's the secret right now, man. But
And honestly, people always ask where's fraud coming from, and I've dealt with this about a decade ago when we had some fraud hit us as when we were marketers and we were buying traffic, and we had identified the fraud. We wanted to go after it. We got Secret Service involved. We got Interpol involved. We got to the level of who we found out what it was, and the agents basically told me, "Let it go."
yeah,
It was at the time it was a mafia from overseas. It was organized crime.
wow,
So let's face it, you got to look in the world of why would organized crime get involved with it. Right now, there are no laws on the books, internationally or nationally, against ad fraud. So imagine a $42 billion industry with no laws against it. And who's going to want to do that? Every criminal in the world.
and then and like you said, you had the Secret Service, Interpol. Like as soon as you cross the slightest boundary, it's a question of who owns that response. There's so many complications.
Well, we found out that they knew what the laws were and they slid under the radar so that Interpol could not get involved. And our local Secret Service department couldn't get involved because it was overseas. So they literally knew exactly how to hide from the law because the law will get you on something else,
Yeah, yeah,
overseas wire fraud or something. They'll find something else to get you on. But they knew enough about the law to stay hidden enough that they couldn't get caught or they wouldn't get caught. And that's why these guys are ramping up their volume because right now they're employing very talented people. They're employing human fraud farms that make it very difficult to detect. They're deploying all these new techniques, and they're just everybody on the band is jumping on the bandwagon. Let's take it's 42 billion. I want my piece.
yeah, yeah. And honestly, when people lose a million out of 42 billion, they don't always think about it. They don't always see it. So
Yeah.
incredible.
So
Well,
think of it this way: $1 in $4 of marketing is spent on fraud right now.
it makes me
That,
nauseous, man.
that's the average.
Super nauseous. We've losing people losing money. Well, look, Rich, I've taken enough of your time. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you for educating us about fraud. If somebody, we'll certainly be posting this. We'll share your contact information. But if somebody wanted to find you, other than Googling Anura, the website
Website is Anura.io.
.io. Okay,
And pretty much everything you need there. We've got a bunch of good information resources. We've got a fraud calculator up there so you can actually calculate how much fraud you
love it.
if you care to look.
Yeah, yeah.
And our phone number's up there, contact information, everything's right there.
Super cool. Rich, thank you so much for the time today. You've been the coolest. And I wish you the best of luck, sir. Thank you for being a partner of the folks here at Partner Eyes. We value you a whole lot, and we hope our partners do too.
I appreciate it. It's great working with you guys.
Have a great day, sir. Thanks again.